So for many of us, instead of buying new furniture, we often go to yard sales or estate sales and we find beautiful pieces of furniture that we find to be very functional and it works in our environment, something that we would love to be able to use. The problem is, often there's some damage. There's things that need to be fixed, and maybe sometimes the color's just completely wrong. Don't give up hope. We have the opportunity to take that functional piece of furniture and make it your own. So I want to show you how to do that. I'm your host, Rodney McFalls. So today I'm working with my friend, Hovie Nestor. You know, Hovie and I have worked together on so many projects, not just from new, not just starting with a raw piece of wood, but often it's interesting finds like what we have today.
Yeah, I really love finding an old piece of furniture and then reviving it to something that's still usable, but yet has a classic appeal.
Kind of makes it our own, right?
Right.
So we have the opportunity. We found this neat little treasure, and we see hope. We see purpose in this. This is not trash. This is something that we're going to turn into our own individual piece that represents our own emotion. So let's get to work. So a couple things to consider, Hovie. What type of wood is this? There's a couple things that we've always looked at to determine if it's solid wood or if it's veneer, it's still wood. We have the opportunity to finish it. The only issue is if it's a laminate, and laminate really doesn't finish well because it's not wood.
Right.
In this particular piece of furniture, what we found was to look for the indication that it is solid wood. We're always looking for end grain. So the grain always runs in one direction, and we should be able to see end grained marks if it's solid wood. If that grain direction on the side of this table was exactly the same all the way across, that would be a good indication of veneer. But again, as long as the wood is intact, it's not flaking off, it's not chipping, it's salvageable. We can work with that. So as you can see, we've got some water damage that's happened over time. So the finish itself is flaked off. We can't help that. We can't fix that. What we want to do is be able to remove that, have a fresh slate to start on, a great palette of colors that we can choose from, and then start making some decisions on how can we bring this table up to date? How can we fix this? How can we make it our own? So we have a couple different options. We could stain it, right?
And it could match the color that's already there because we already know that the base is intact. Color's good there. The other thing that we could do that was not done in this era or classic design this way is we could do a two-tone top because of taking the finish off, sanding it properly, and then doing perhaps a paint over top.
That's correct.
Or a secondary color that is perhaps a little lighter or a little darker.
To complement
the color. Complement the color, but it modernizes things for today.
So what we found was we've inspected the base, and what we found was there's nothing wrong. The finish is good, the wood is good.
Right.
It's in great shape.
Yep.
We can work with the base, but we just have to do something with the top. So we have the opportunity to do that, and we're going to go through the different steps that will get us to a refreshed new look on top. So let's get started.
Sounds good.
So as we prepare to stain our project, there's a couple things we want to do. We've got to remove the finish first. There's a couple different ways that we can do that. We can strip it off or we can sand it off.
Correct.
I think a really good grit to start with would be like 150 grit, but always finish up with 180 grit before we start staining.
That's right.
So as we have now removed, this is an example of how we have removed the finish. One thing that we don't know is over the course of time, whoever owned this piece of furniture, how many waxes or polishes were applied. So we want to make sure that we remove any of the residual oils that may be on the surface. So use solvent after it's sanded to just wipe over and clean any residual oil off, and then we're ready to stain.
That's correct.
Okay. we discussed many really great options of what we could do to this top. We could actually finish it in different colors, but you know, one of the things we decided to do is, hey, let's try to match it in the same finish as the base. The base itself is in really great shape. We like the color. It works with the environment that we're going to put the table in.
Exactly. We ended up looking through the plethora of colors that Varathane has. We chose the Early American and the Premium Fast Dry Wood Stain.
What we'll normally do is we'll test it on one little section.
Correct.
We'll take a look at it, and if the color's not quite right, it's no problem. We'll take some solvent, we'll wipe that off, and we'll start again. We also have great options in being able to intermix any of the wood stains. Those wood stains will blend together, and we could turn it into our own color if we want to. So we have a good opportunity to fix this and make this top look just as good as the base. Now, as we prepare to stain the area that's been sanded and prepped with our solvent to make sure that all the oils are removed, all I'm going to do is test one little section, again, just to make sure that I'm happy with the color. So I'll pick this corner. Again, we want to just kind of wipe it in a circular motion. We want to force all of that pigment into the grain. Now, with a separate lint-free cloth, just begin to blend. Remember, we go in a circular motion and then always finish up by wiping in the direction of the grain. That looks like a pretty good match. I'm happy. Let's do the whole project. Okay, so remember, we just want to wipe in a circular motion. We want to make sure that we're getting that color pigment in the grain. Make sure that we apply the stain very liberally. Make sure that we have enough that will stain and color the grain and everything. So I'll take my separate cloth and just begin to use the soft wipe. So I'm not trying to scrub it clean. I'm literally trying to almost sneak up on the color. And the last thing is always make sure that we follow by wiping in the direction of the grain. Do a soft wipe. I can always take it off. If I happen, for whatever reason, to get it just a little bit too light, I'll reapply the stain, do it again, and I'll nail the color. So I think it turned out fantastic. I hope we have shared some tips that will encourage you when you find that piece of furniture that works in your home, is something that you love. You know what? If you hate the finish, you can change it. If you love it, you can match it. We simply want to help you take the fear out of finishing. And remember, don't just stain it,
Varathane it.